Humility. You are not the center of the world. Most people train to believe they are the center of the world, and their culture is the linchpin of human history. Many Greeks believe that history began with Homer, Sophocles, and Plato, and that all important ideas and inventions were born in Athens, Sparta, Alexandria, or Constantinople. Chinese nationalists retort that history really began with the Yellow Emperor and the Xie and Shang dynasties, and that whatever Westerners, Muslims, or Indians achieved is but a pale copy of original Chinese breakthroughs. Hindu nativists dismiss these Chinese boasts and argue that even airplanes and nuclear bombs were invented by ancient sages in the Indian subcontinent long before Confucius or Plato, not to mention Einstein and the Wright brothers. Did you know, for example, that it was Maharishi Bhardwaj who invented rockets and airplanes, that Vish- Vishwamitra not only invented but also used missiles, that Acharya Kanat was the father of atomic theory, and that the Mahabharata accurately describes nuclear weapons. Pious Muslims regard all history prior to the Prophet Muhammad as largely irrelevant, and they consider all history after the revelation of the Quran to revolve around the Muslim Ummah. The main exceptions are Turkish, Iranian, and Egyptian nationalists who argue that even prior to Muhammad, their particular nation was the fountainhead of all that was good about humanity, and that even after the revelation of the Quran, it was mainly their people who preserved the purity of Islam and spread its glory. Needless to say that British, French, German, American, Russian, Japanese, and countless other groups are similarly convinced that humankind would have lived in barbarous and immoral ignorance if it wasn't for the spectacular achievements of their nation. Some people in history went so far as to imagine that their political institutions and religious practices were essential to the very laws of physics. Thus, the Aztecs firmly believed that without the sacrifices they performed each year, the sun would not rise and the entire universe would disintegrate. All these claims are false. They combine a willful ignorance of history with more than a hint of racism. None of the religions and nations of today existed when humans colonized the world, domesticated plants and animals, built the first cities, or invented writing and money. Morality, art, spirituality, and creativity are universal human abilities embedded in our DNA. Their genesis was in Stone Age Africa. It is therefore cross-egotism to ascribe to them a more recent place and time. Be they China in the age of the Yellow Emperor, Greece in the age of Plato, or Arabia in the age of Muhammad. Personally, I am all too familiar with such cross-egotism because the Jews, my own people, also think that they are the most important thing in the world. Name any human achievement or invention, and they will quickly claim credit for it. And knowing them intimately, I also know they are genuinely convinced of such claims. I once went to a yoga teacher in Israel who, in the introductory class, explained in all seriousness that yoga was invented by Abraham and that all the basic yoga postures derive from the shape of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Thus, the Trikonasana posture imitates the shape of the Hebrew letter Aleph. Tuladandasana imitates the letter Talit, etc. Braham taught these postures to the son of one of his concubines who went to India and taught yoga to the Indians. When I asked for some evidence, the master quoted a biblical passage, and to the sons of his concubines Abraham gave gifts, and while he was still living, he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the east. Contrary. Genesis 25:6. What do you think these gifts were? So you see, even yoga was actually invented by the Jews. Considering Abraham to be the inventor of yoga is a strange notion. Yet mainstream Judaism solemnly maintains that the entire cosmos exists just so that Jewish rabbis can study their holy scriptures, and that if Jews cease this practice, the universe will come to an end. China, India, Australia, and even the distant galaxies will all be annihilated if the rabbis in Jerusalem and Brooklyn stop debating the Talmud. This is central article of faith of Orthodox Jews, and anyone who tears out it is considered an ignorant fool. Secular Jews may be a bit more skeptical about this grandiose claim, but they do believe that the Jewish people are the central heroes of history and the ultimate wellspring of human morality, spirituality, and learning. What my people lack in numbers and real influence, they more than compensate for in Shakespeare. Since it is more polite to criticize one's own people than to criticize foreigners, I will use example I've chosen to illustrate how ludicrous such self-important narratives are, and I will leave it to readers around the world to puncture the hot air balloons inflated by their own tribes.